Welcome along to this video series in Scratch where we are going to be making ourselves a platform game. If you're unaware what a platform game is, it's basically having a character that can jump around a game on a series of platforms. If I press the green flag here to run my game, I'll show you exactly what I mean. You can see our little guy gets pulled to the ground by gravity. We can use our left and right arrow keys now to move left and right, and then we can use the up arrow to jump around and get around our game. Okay, so he's jumping around on a series of platforms. Quite straightforward to start with. We're just going to set up these basic controls and get the jumping mechanism worked out. Same with the gravity, and that's going to be the end of our first tutorial. In later tutorials we're going to be adding a little dog into the game in place of our red block, and he's going to go around and collect his dinner, which is going to be a series of bones. Alright, so we're going to pop on over to a new document in Scratch today. I'm using the online editor. You can use the offline version of Scratch, that's fine. Either one will work because they are both exactly the same. First thing you want to do is just rename your project here from Untitled. I'm going to call it Dog's Dinner. And the next step is to get this cat here and delete him. So just right click on the cat and delete it. We don't want the cat in our game, so we're going to bring in our own sprites to start with. In the new sprite section down here next to the troll's head, you've got a paintbrush that says paint new sprite, and that's exactly what we want to do today. We want to make our own sprite for this game. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here just so you can see the center point of my screen. What I'm going to draw first is the little red block, so I'm going to need the rectangle tool for that. I'm going to need to go down, and you've got the choice between the outline option or the fill option. You want to choose the fill option so your square will be filled in with a color. And choose a color for your block. I'm going to go with red. And what you need to do is hold shift to draw a perfect square. And just draw a square over, or roughly the center of your page. Something like that. Now you want to get this square to be 35 by 35 pixels. Okay, so to check the size of your shape, just come over here and click any one of these tools in your toolbox, and you'll notice that underneath costume 1 over here, it tells you the size of your shape. Okay, at the moment mine's 33 by 33, so I've gone pretty close to 35 by 35 pixels, which is what I'm after. So grab your select tool down here. I'm going to be fussy with this. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to highlight this area and hold shift and just bring him out in size a little bit. And if I go back and click on any one of these shapes, you can see that now he's 35 by 36. So I'm very close. His height's just a little bit too much, so I'm just going to have to bring that height down a little bit. Oops, I've gone too far. I'm 35 by 34 now. Surely that's got it. Yep, I've got a 35 by 35 square on my page now. Okay, so aim for 35 by 35 pixels. Just keep using the select tool to resize it until you get it bang on. Next thing you want to do is just grab your ellipse tool and choose the fill option again, and we're going to go with the color white to draw a couple of eyes on our page. So you want to draw an oval, something like that. Now as soon as I drop my mouse here, a bounding box appears around that circle. Leave that up because you want to press Ctrl C to copy that shape and Ctrl V to paste that shape. And you're going to get a second eyeball there that's roughly the same size and same position. Then we're going to grab the ellipse tool again and go for color black this time, making sure it's the fill color still, and we're just going to draw some little eyeballs inside there, or some pupils. Ctrl C and Ctrl V to copy and paste that little black section, and get one on the other side too, pretty much in the same position. So it should be looking something like that when you're done. The last thing you need to do now to your character is just come up the top right here to set the costume's center point. Now usually when we press that button, we put this center point in the middle of our sprite, but we're not going to do that for this one. What we're going to do is bring it to the top towards his forehead. It's still going to be centered, but it's going to be moved to the top of the shape. So about there is where we want it. When you let go of your mouse, you'll see your shape move. That's fine. Okay, you're now ready to go back to the scripts tab. And that center point option is going to come in handy later in the game. Last thing we need to do to this sprite is just give him a name. So hit the little information symbol on top of the sprite there in your library and give him the name Player Block. That's all one word, and I've just put a capital B to separate the two words. So Player Block. We'll press the back button. That's our first sprite made up. Second sprite we're going to make is, again, it's going to be painted by ourselves. So click over here on Paint New Sprite. And we're just going to draw the platforms in our game. I'm just going to zoom back out there. To draw the platforms, you'll need the rectangle tool, the fill option selected, and the color blue. And you don't have to go all the way across the page. I'm going to go a good chunk of the way across and just draw a skinny blue line like that with some rectangles on top. I'm just going to copy and paste those rectangles, make one a little bit taller than the other, and then just go back to scripts. I'm going to rename that sprite there to platforms, and just press the back arrow, and I can move my platform around now and just get it into a nice position. I want you to bring the red guy, our main character, in between those two blue blocks, not so that he's touching the platform, but just in between them somewhere, because we're going to move him left and right in a moment to see if he collides with those blue blocks. Alrighty, so that's our two sprites set up. We're now ready to start the coding. So go back and click on player block if you haven't already done so. So he's selected, and we're going to put the code onto him to move him left and right first of all. In the More Blocks tab here, we're going to go to Make a Block. Okay, and we're going to make our own block of code up, and we're going to call this block of code Run Controls. It's going to tell him how to run around the page. Okay, when you click OK, you'll see that the Define Run Controls appears on your page, where it's asking you to define the movements for the run controls. Before we do put those movements in, I just want to make a new variable. So in your Data tab here, just make a variable called Run Speed. And that's going to be the speed that our little guy can move left and right. Make sure you've got for all sprites selected and click OK. You'll see Run Speed has a checkbox next to it over here in your Data tab. If we uncheck that, it will disappear off our stage, and that's what we want to happen. Okay, it needs to be hidden. Alright, so up to the coding now. We're going to start on the Control tab here, and we're going to work out if we're pressing the left key or the right key. And if we are, then obviously we want to move in those directions. So in the Control tab, just bring out an if-then statement and drop it below the Run Controls. So we need to work out if we're pressing the right key first of all. So in the Sensing tab here, just go down and look for the key space pressed and change space to the right arrow. So if the key right arrow is being pressed, then what do we want to happen? Well, we want to move to the right. So in Motion, just go down and find the Change X by 10. We're going to change that 10 though in just a moment. What I'm going to do is duplicate this bit of code. So right click on the word if there and just duplicate it. So we've got our second batch of code here and snap it below. And what we're going to put in here is if the key left arrow is pressed, then change X by 10. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set up our run speed. Okay, remember back here in the Data tab we set our run speed. Okay. What we're actually going to do is when we press the right arrow, we're not going to move our little character by 10. We're going to move him by whatever speed we set him up to be moving at. So that's our run speed. Okay, down here when we press the left arrow, okay, we're just going to do a slightly different thing. In the operators here, we're just going to bring out our minus operator and drop it on top of the 10. We're actually going to change the X by 0, take away the run speed. Okay, and I'll explain that in just a moment. What I want to do next is just set up this run speed. So we've got to tell the game how fast our player is allowed to move. Okay, so in the Events tab here, when the green flag is clicked, go to the Data tab and we're going to set that run speed up. So how fast do we want this guy to move? The speed that I'm going to set him at is 5. Okay, I think that's a pretty good looking speed. The other thing we need to do when this green flag is clicked and we start our game is actually activate these controls. At the moment, they're not working because they haven't been activated. Okay, so in the Control tab, what you want to do is bring out a forever loop. And in More Blocks, grab Run Controls and put it between it there. So that basically means while our game's running, this piece of code will be active. Okay, so always be running this Run Controls piece of code. Okay, so when we start our game, we've set him up to have a speed of 5. So when we press the right arrow, we change our X value. So let's say sitting in the center here, our X value is our horizontal axis. And we're going to change his X value by his run speed, so 5, each time we press the right arrow. So he moves 5 places, or at a speed of 5, along the X axis. If we press the left arrow though, we change his X position by 0, take away 5, so minus 5, which moves him towards the left. Remember, if we're moving right, we move into the positive side of the axis. If we move to the left, we're moving towards the negative side of the axis. Alright, so hopefully with this piece of code, we can move left and right. So I'll press my green flag, pressing my left arrow, he's moving, pressing my right arrow, he's moving. So that's good. The issue you can see there is that he runs straight through the blue blocks. Okay, we don't want that. We want him to stop when he hits a blue block. Okay, so we need to be sensing whether or not he's hitting a platform. So the way we do that is in the control tab here, we just need to bring out another if-then statement. Okay, and in sensing, we need to work out if we're touching the platforms. If we are touching the platforms, then what do we want to do? Well, I'm just going to drag this out of the way for a moment, and I'm going to snap this into here. So if we're moving to the right, and we're moving at our run speed of 5, and we come into contact with a platform, then we need to tell him to take off that run speed. Okay, so he's moving at speed 5, we're just going to take 5 off our speed, and that will put him back to speed of 0, so he'll stop moving. So basically all we need to do is go to our motion tab here, and we're going to change X by, in operators, grab the minus symbol and drag that out and drop it on the top there. It's going to be 0, take away, in the data tab choose run speed. Okay, so that's basically reversing this section of code here. So that bit of code there, he's moving at speed 5. If he touches the platform, then we take off speed 5, and that brings him back to 0 and he can't move. Okay, so I'll put this left arrow key back on. We're going to do something very similar here. So I'm just going to duplicate this new bit of code I put in. So just right click and duplicate it and snap it straight in here. So if we touch a platform and we're moving left now, we're going to change X by. It's not going to be this little run speed thing here. It's just going to be run speed on its own. We don't need that green operator anymore. So that reverses this action here. So we'd be moving at -5 speed if we're pressing the left arrow, so moving on the left of the page. If we hit a platform, then we change the X by +5, which brings his speed to 0 and he stops moving. I know it's a little bit confusing, but you watch, if we run the game now, if I move my guy left, hits a block, can't get through it. If I move right, hit a block, I can't get through it. Okay, so it's just stopping his speed as soon as you hit one of those blue blocks. Alright, so we've got our left and right movements looking good. The next thing I'm going to do is bring some gravity into our game, so we can fall out of the sky and land on the platform here. So to do that, we need to add some new variables. So go to your data tab, and we're going to make 2 new variables. One is called fall speed. Make sure you check for all sprites, and uncheck the box next to fall speed, fall speed, so it doesn't appear on the stage. We're going to click the make a variable one more time there, and we're going to set the variable name now to gravity. Choose for all sprites and click on OK. Again, uncheck the box that says gravity so it doesn't appear on your page. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to more blocks here, and we're going to make another new block. Okay, we're going to define our own custom bit of code, and it's going to be called simulate gravity. And we'll click on OK. When you do that, you'll see this purple script appear, and it's telling us to define simulate gravity. So how are we going to bring gravity into our game? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make him fall out of the sky. Okay, so we're now working with the y-axis, so the up and down axis. So in motion, we're going to go all the way down to change y by 10. We're not actually going to change it by 10 though. We're going to go to the data tab and we're going to change it by a fall speed. Okay, we're going to define a falling speed for him to fall out of the sky at a little bit later on. But basically, when the gravity kicks in and we activate this bit of code, let's make him fall out of the sky if he's in the sky. Okay, when he falls out of the sky and hits a platform, we want him to stop. So we need to bring in an if-then-else statement over here now. So drag that out. So the first thing we want to do is we want to sense, see if we are touching the platform. Okay, so we're falling out of the sky. Eventually we're going to hit a platform to stop us falling. Okay, so when we hit that platform, we just want to turn this fall speed off. Okay, so in motion we just change y by, and what it's going to be is an operator. It's going to be 0 minus the fall speed. Okay, so to start with, he's falling. When he hits a platform, we reverse that piece of code and stop him from falling. Okay, it's a bit like the run code over here that we were using to move left and right. Okay, only now we're just using the y-axis instead of the x-axis. When we do hit the platform, okay, we were moving at a bit of a speed. What we're going to do now is in data, we're going to set not gravity, but not run speed either. It's going to be fall speed to 0. Okay, that just stops him falling. Now, if he's not touching our platform, then we want him to keep falling out of the sky. Okay, and the way we do that is we go over to our change gravity here. We're going to change that to fall speed. So we're going to change the fall speed by, and we're going to choose gravity just there. Okay, so that's basically saying when we start our game, we're going to have him falling out of the sky if he's in the sky. Okay. If he touches a platform, then we turn his fall speed off and he's sitting still now on a platform. But if he's not touching a platform, what else do? Well, we change his fall speed by the gravity. Now, we haven't set up the gravity just yet, so let's do that now. So over here in our data tab, we just want to set the gravity, and we want to bring it up here just below where we set our run speed. So when we start our game, we set our gravity to -1. Okay, so that now has him falling at a speed of -1 out of the sky. One last thing we want to do is just go over here where we've got set gravity again. We're going to bring in a third one, and we're going to set the fall speed to 0. Okay. Now, before we can get our game going, what we need to do is we need to actually activate this piece of code here, this simulate gravity. Okay. To activate it, like we've done here with run controls, just go to more blocks and bring out simulate gravity. So when the green flag is clicked, we're forever running these two pieces of code, the simulate gravity and the run controls. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just pick up my little red guy, press the green flag, and let's see if he drops down towards the blue platform. See if he starts falling. He sure does. Okay, and we can still move left and right, and we can still run into those blocks. Can't jump over them yet, but we're moving left and right, and gravity's got the better of him. You can pick him up and keep dropping him. Okay. You might have noticed a bit of a glitch too. I know it's hard to see on my screen, but just before he hits the platform, you'll see that he slows down and ever so slowly goes down to the platform. Have a look. You might see it's a little pause just before he hits the blue platform. Okay, that's a little bit of a glitch we're going to fix up later in the tutorial. Okay, so don't stress about that now. It's very minor, but it is something that doesn't make our game run as smoothly as it could. So we will fix that a little bit later on. Alright, so we've got our gravity sorted. The next thing we need to do is make him jump. Okay, so we can get over these blocks. So what we're going to do is go over to our more blocks tab, and we're going to make another new block of code. And it's going to be called jump control. We'll click on it OK. You'll see this purple box appear, which is our jump control script that we need to define. Before we define that, we're just going to go back to data here and make another new variable. It's going to be called takeoff speed, and it's for all sprites. We'll click OK. Don't forget to uncheck the box here so it disappears off your stage. Okay. So this one's a pretty quick one. What we're going to do is go to our control tab here, and we're going to bring out an if-then statement. And in our sensing tab here, we need to work out what key we're pressing to jump. Now the jump key, you can either use the space bar or the up arrow. I think the up arrow is easier. So if the key up arrow is pressed, then in the data tab here, we're going to set the fall speed to whatever our takeoff speed is. Now we haven't set our takeoff speed yet, so we're going to do that in just a moment. Okay, so still in the data tab here, where we've got set takeoff speed, just bring that out. Just drop it at the top here. Set the takeoff speed to, I'm going to choose 12, and that's going to allow us to jump. Okay, that's quite easy. So what we need to do now is just go over to more blocks and make sure that the jump control is running forever. when our game is running. Okay, so when the green flag is clicked, we're forever having the jump control run as well. So this little piece of script here is always running, so you can jump at any time. So let's press the green flag now. Let's see if our little guy can jump. There we go. So when I press the up arrow, he's jumping around. Now there's a bit of a glitch here. If I press the up arrow multiple times, he just keeps jumping until he gets stuck on the roof. So you can just sort of bounce in the air. That's a little bit of a glitch as well. So we've got two glitches. One that he can continuously jump, and the other is when he hits the platform. There's a bit of a glitch just as he comes down and hits the platform. It just pauses for a very brief second. Okay, so let's fix those glitches up, and then that might do us for this first video. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is fix up his jump issue where he can jump multiple times in the air. We only want him to jump when he's on a platform. So if he's not on a platform, so if he's in mid-air, we're not going to allow him to jump. He can only jump once when he's on the platform. Okay, so I'll just stop that game for a sec. We're going to look at this jump control script we just put in. Okay, we're going to leave the first line in there that says if key up arrow is pressed then. What we're going to bring in the motion tab here is the change Y by 10, and we're just going to put that above the orange bit there. So change Y by 10, we're actually going to change it by -1. Then we're going to go to our control tab and bring in another if-then statement. Okay, we're going to wrap it around this orange section. So if then, and this set full speed to takeoff speed is inside of it. So what we're going to put in the if then statement then is if we are touching a platform, then we're allowed to jump. Okay. And then the last thing I need to do in motion here is just change Y by 1. Okay, a little bit confusing there, but just make sure your code matches my code there. I think that's all we need to make our guy stop jumping multiple times. So if I press the run now, you can see that he can jump, but if I press the up arrow multiple times, he's not continually jumping in midair. Okay, so that's looking good. Last thing now is to fix up this glitch is when he hits the platform, that he just pauses for a moment. That doesn't look like a very smooth landing. This is where it gets a little bit harder. Okay, so basically what we want to happen, as soon as he hits this blue platform, you want him to sink a little bit and then come straight back up and just sit level or flush with the platform. Okay, a little bit hard to explain. If you just copy the code, what I'm going to put on in just a moment, then you should be right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to the data tab here, make a variable, and that variable is going to be called reverse step. And then we'll click on OK. Make sure you've got for all sprites selected. Now, I'm just going to move this jump control out of the way, and that green flag, because the one we need to work with is this simulate gravity. Okay, in simulate gravity, we're going to add quite a few things here. We're going to leave the change Y by full speed as it is, and if touching platforms, then that's going to stay as it is. Okay, it's this section down here where we start to change stuff. Okay, so I'm going to just drag this code out of the way for a moment. I'm going to go to the control tab, and I'm going to bring in an if-then statement. Actually, sorry. What's it going to be? We've got if-then-else around the outside. There needs to be another if-then-else on the inside too. My bad. So in here, we've got another if-then-else. So what we're going to look for first of all in the operators is the less than symbol. Okay, and in data, we're going to choose full speed. So while you're in data, just uncheck that reverse step box. We don't want that to appear on the stage. So if our full speed is less than 0, and what do we want to do? Then we're going to set the reverse step to 1. Else is setting the reverse step to -1. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a repeat until. So in your control tab here, we're looking for repeat until, and that comes straight below this set reverse step. Okay, we're going to choose repeat until when not touching platforms. So in operators, we're going to look for the not operator. There it is. So not touching platforms. So when we're not touching platforms, we'll know we're in the right position. Okay, so we're going to change. I'm just going to get rid of this code over here. We don't need it at the moment. Okay, so we're going to repeat this next section of code until we're not touching platforms. It's going to be change Y by reverse step. Okay, I hope you're following along here. Just as long as your code is following mine, you're going to be sweet. It's a little bit hard to explain this section, what's going on. The last two things we need to put in is we're going to set the fall speed to 0. So this goes in just below here. I'm going to change the fall speed to 0. And then in this bottom bit, in the else section, we're just going to change the fall speed again. But this time, the fall speed is going to be changed by whatever the gravity is. Okay, so that was a lot of code there, but basically our little red guy, I'm not sure why that reverse step's still there. It's just a bit of a glitch, I think. There we go. If I make this a bit bigger, basically when our red guy falls down and hits this blue platform, he just falls down a little bit and then comes back up until he's sitting flush with that blue platform. If I run the game, you can see that happening. I'll just do that on the bigger screen for you there so you can see what's happening. Okay, so if I press the green flag, watch him hit this blue platform. He sinks a little bit and then brings himself back up. Okay, hopefully you saw that. We'll do it again with the jump. He just sinks a little bit and then comes back up. That's what we want, but we just want it to happen a lot quicker, which we can do in just a moment. Hopefully you can see what's happening. So he sinks and he comes back up till he's sitting level. So to fix that issue up, all we need to do is we need to go and right click on this define simulate gravity and choose edit. And in options here below simulate gravity, all you need to do is check the box at the bottom that says run without screen refresh and click OK. Now if I drop him, he hits the platform nicely. I'll just make it a bit bigger so you can see that. So watch when he hits the blue platform now. Okay, he doesn't sink through it, he just hits it and away we go. We can jump around now and he doesn't have that lag when he hits the platform. He just snaps straight to it. That's looking quite nice. Okay, so this is the point that I wanted to get up to in this first video. Okay, in the next few videos we'll start to get a little bit more advanced, but for now you can move your character around using the left, right and up keys, and we've got the jumping working just fine. So I'm going to stop that and save what I've got, and I'll see you in the second video where we'll start to get a little bit more complex.